Gordon and Henry were very miserable and lonely when Thomas left to run his branch line. They missed him very much. They had more work to do and had to go to fetch their own coaches and trucks. The bigger engines thought that they were too important to fetch their own coaches. James grumbled too. "We get no rest, they complained. But the coaches only laughed. "You're lazy and slack, they said. Altogether, the engines were giving Sir Topham Hatt lots of problems. The yards and stations each have a turntable so that the tender engines can turn around, because it is very dangerous for them to go fast backwards. Little tank engines like Thomas don't need turntables. They can go just as well backwards as forwards. But to hear Gordon talk, you would have thought that Sir Topham Hatt had given him a tender just to show how important he is. "You don't understand, little Thomas," said Gordon. "We tender engines have a position to keep up. It doesn't matter where you go, but we're important engines. And for Topham Hatt to make us shun trucks and coaches and go on some of those dirty sidings, well, it's not the proper thing." Thomas chuckled and went off with Annie and Clarabelle. "Disgraceful," Gordon hissed as he went backwards onto the turntable. The turntable was in a windy place close to the sea, and if he was not on it just right, he would put it out of balance. Today, Gordon was in a very bad mood, and the wind was very strong. The driver tried to turn the handle on the table, but Gordon's weight and the strong winds prevented him. "It's no good," they said at last. "Your tender upsets the balance. If you were a nice little tank engine, you'd be okay. Now you have to pull the next train backwards." "Look," called some boys, "there's a new tank engine." "Oh, it's only Gordon, back to front." "Hello," said Thomas, "playing tank engines. Sensible engine. Take my advice, scrap your tender and have a nice bunker instead." Even James laughed when he saw him. "Take care," said Gordon. "You might stick too." "No fear," chuckled James. "I'm not so fat as you." "I mustn't stick," thought James, as he went onto the turntable. It could now swing easily. Gordon arrived in time just to see everything. James turned much too easily. The wind puffed him around like a top. He couldn't stop. "Well, well," chuckled Gordon. "Are you playing roundabouts?" James rolled backwards into the shed, feeling quite giddy, without another word. That night, the tender engines had an indignation meeting. "It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. Gordon has to go backwards, and people think that he's a tank engine. James spins around like a top, and everybody laughs at us. And to add to that, Sir Topham Hatt makes us all shunt in dirty sidings. Blech!" "Listen," said Gordon. He whispered something to the others. "We'll do it tomorrow. Sir Topham Hatt will look silly." The engines had decided to go on strike.